Hi guys, welcome back to another video of mine. Welcome to the channel if you are new. If you are new, my name is Elise and I have recently made the move from the UK to Australia, Sydney, and I've been living here now for 6 months. I wanted to document the journey on me moving over here, hurdles I've kind of overcome, the wobbles I've definitely had, and the things I'm now contemplating now I'm 6 months in, whether I want to obviously stay in the UK or be in Australia. But in today's video, I wanted to talk about some things that I really feel like Australia do very well that the UK lack. There are a few things now that I've been living here for 6 months that I've noticed that I feel like if they were available to people in the UK, I feel like it would make a huge difference. So the first one, and I feel like is a huge attraction for a lot of people thinking about moving from the UK to Australia, is the work-life balance that everybody speaks so highly of. I definitely agree there is a huge work-life balance here that is completely different to the UK. I do feel like there is a work hard, play hard attitude here. So people do put in the graft here and get their heads down so that they can finish early and enjoy the weather. But I do feel like the work-life balance is probably more apparent in comparison to the UK, because obviously we have the weather on our side here in Australia. People make the most of their 5 to 9 before they start their 9 to 5, and that's a huge cliche that you'll hear across Australia. Everybody likes to get up for a morning dip. Everybody's doing run clubs or some sort of fitness in the morning if they can. They're getting up to see a sunrise, walk the dog, and they're all doing that before they go to work. Whereas in the UK, if you've lived in the UK, you know probably 7-8 months of the year it's absolutely miserable in the mornings. And I, for one, love my sleep, and as much as I've enjoyed getting up in the mornings here, and I feel like if I was to ever go back to the UK, that would be something I'd want to integrate into my life in the UK. So hard to get out of bed in the UK when it's grey and it's miserable. So I feel like that does have a huge impact on your mindset. So yeah, I do feel like the work-life balance here is better in terms of everybody making the most of the mornings before they start work. I find the people here way more friendly. But yeah, I don't know, work-life balance, I feel like, yes, definitely is incredible for the sense the fact that everybody gets up in the morning and they make the most of their morning before they start their full-time job, and I think that is an excellent thing, and I think everybody in the UK should try and do that. Pot kettle black here. I never did that, but I feel like being here has given me perspective, and I feel like if I was to go back to the UK, even for a holiday, I'd feel like I'd want to make the most of that time with Pepper and get her up for like a long walk and stuff before I was going to start work. But like if you can get into that habit, I think it's a game changer, because it's definitely been something I've actually really enjoyed here. Okay, so moving on to the second point, and they're kind of like combined. Obviously this is a huge obvious one, and it's the coffee. The coffee here is insane and half the price. I didn't really have too many little local shops around where I lived. I didn't live in a city, bearing in mind in the UK I come from like a little villagey town, and there's a few little like independent cafes that will be open, but some days they'd be shut. So it used to be like the main chains like Costa or Pret, and they charge a fortune. They're about, I don't know, £4.80, £4.90 I was paying for a coffee back then, which rounds up to about $9. Here, I think the most I've ever paid for a coffee, and maybe because I add like a few little bougie things in, but I think the most I've ever paid here for a coffee is about $7, and that's like in the city. Normally I pay about $5, which is about £2.50. It's kind of half at the moment, I think. Don't quote me on that. So yeah, the coffee I feel like is so much cheaper. It's so much nicer. There are so many cafes here. It's a huge cafe culture, which I'm absolutely here for. I feel like, again, probably just because of where I lived, but there would be a few cute little cafes nearby, but they're just saturated here, which I love. I love that. I love that there's loads of cafes and cute little buildings that you can sit outside, and literally everywhere you go, you've got somewhere that you can go into the toilet, grab a coffee and chill. And that moves me perfectly onto the next one, which is the food. The food here in Australia, and I wish I was lying, the food here is insane. I've not had one bad meal here in Australia yet, and I don't know when it's gonna happen. The fruit and the veg here is so fresh. There's so much option for it. Salad bars bloody everywhere. Sushi you can get everywhere, and I am the biggest fan of sushi ever. And back home, the only place I'd be able to get sushi would be in Tesco, which would be like, the rice was definitely dry, the salmon was like pale, it looked anemic, like unwell. Or there'd be Kokoro in Chichester, which was like a Japanese restaurant that I could go to, but I would have to drive like 15-20 minutes to go get it. There are so many sushi bars all in Sydney, and it's such a good price. I think I pay about $8 and I get like 5 salmon nigiri and like 3 or 4 little tuna like sushi roll things. It's like £4. I'd be paying like 20 quid for that in the UK. So yeah, the food here is just amazing, especially where I live in the eastern suburbs. In the city there is so much choice, to the point where there's probably too much choice. My list of restaurants that I have to go to is astronomical and will take me years to get through. But yeah, the food here is amazing. I highly rate it. I've not had one bad meal yet. So Australians 100% take that one. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the barbecue facilities here that they have at most of the beaches and parks. Again, this is probably pushed more so because the weather is good here. Australia is very much outdoorsy kind of lifestyle and very family orientated in the aspect of they want that space to be used and the weather to be enjoyed, right? The amount of times I've seen families and friends, a big group of people just meeting up outside, using one of the barbecue facilities and celebrating a birthday is so lovely, because in the UK, you would just do that in your garden or you would do that at somebody's house. It's very rare that you'd all get together at a park, and if you did, it would be like a picnic style, right? You wouldn't necessarily be able to cook unless you've got those little like disposable barbecues. Here they are everywhere, and I absolutely love that Australia do that. They've been around ever since I was living here when I was 18, and I can bet you bottom dollar they've been around for many moons before. I just think it's such a lovely thing to be able to use, and again, it really pushes on that like socialization of like getting everybody together and have a bloody conversation rather than on these bloody phones, which I just love. I do feel like, however, if the UK had those facilities, they would be destroyed in seconds, graffitied, kicked down, burnt. I'm sure it exists in Australia, but I certainly haven't seen it myself. I haven't seen like a bunch of kids destroying something like that. I feel like probably because they've grown up around it, they just respect it because it's something they've always used, whereas the UK, because we've never really had that, something new and nice put in, which would never happen, would just get destroyed, I think. So yeah, Australia take that. Again, probably heavily pushed due to the weather, but I absolutely love that they've got those facilities for everybody to use, and it's free. Now, another thing I've noticed, and again, this is probably more like appropriate for dog owners like myself, I'm thinking about when I want to get Pepper over. I have seen so many places where they have like disposable poo bags that you can just pick up at parks. I love that, because there have been times where I've gone out and Pepper's had a quite sensitive stomach, shall we say, and I've already used a poo bag or two, and then I've ran out and I'm like, well, now what do I do? Because I can't, those poo bags are in the bin and they're gone and I've got no more bags. So I love that Australia provide those poo bags and they're accessible for everybody to use. Again, just to help keep the space clean, which I think is just such a nice thing to have. Again, in the UK, you'd get people taking the piss, and I'm sure people do take the piss here, but I don't know, I can just picture in the UK some little idiot going along and nicking all the poo bags so there's nothing left in there for everybody else to use. But here, again, I just thought it was a really nice touch. I feel like it's a good incentive to just help keep the space clean and everybody to pick up what they should be picking up. And moving on to also things I've noticed in the parks, they have water stations everywhere here, so you can literally just top up your water bottle rather than having to go buy a bottle of water. They are at the parks, they are at all of the beaches. Another thing I've noticed at the parks are the sun cream dispensers. I've only ever forgotten my sun cream once, and that was last week, so I love that they have them at the beaches and the parks. Again, you can just go over, grab a little bit, put some on. Obviously the sun gets very, very hot here. It's just great when you've forgotten something, you're rushing out the house, and there is somewhere for you to go get some. Again, in the UK, we've never had anything like that. Anything given out for free would just be gone in seconds, like I've mentioned before. Okay, another thing I want to talk about is the public transport, and I have spoken about this before in one of my sit down videos. The public transport, I find, is very efficient. It's very, very good, and it's relatively cheap. I wouldn't say it's expensive. In Sydney, I don't actually know how much I pay because they deduct just $1 when you get on a bus, when you get on a train, when you just tap on and off like you would in London. But my friend's actually logged into her account. The buses, again, from like Rose Bay up to Bondi Junction, I think it's about $3, $4. It's really not a lot of money. I love that they've got live updates on the transport here, so like you can literally see when a bus is like late by just 1 minute, it will tell you, you can track it. I've only used the buses and the trains, I've not personally used the light rail yet. So yeah, I find the public transport just really efficient and relatively cheap and just really accessible Again, obviously they have the ferries as well, which are really, really good in the summer. They're really, really frequent from Rose Bay to the city, which is actually such a nice way to get into the city. It's so much more scenic, obviously. I rarely see rubbish in the streets here. I just feel like everybody is tidy. There's bins everywhere. There's no excuse to be throwing something on the floor, whereas I do feel like in the UK, there's stuff all over the place. And I would expect to see a lot of rubbish in Sydney because it's a city, just as you would in London. There are parts of London where it is minging. But Sydney, I honestly have never really seen too much rubbish around. I mean, maybe I'm going to the wrong streets, but where I've been and where I live, and even down at the beaches and everything where I've walked and the coastal walks, it's all really, really tidy. I feel like everybody looks after it to keep it nice. Okay, so the next point I want to make, and it's probably a really obvious one, is the weather. But the thing I wanted to speak more specifically about is the winter here. The winters are warmer, and I feel like this temperature for me, currently it's sunny, it's about 19, 20 degrees, it's a beautiful blue sky. This weather is gorgeous, and this is their winter. Don't get me wrong, Sydney gets a lot of rain. It was hammering it down all day yesterday, and it was chilly, it was cold. But I feel like the winters here they do just feel about 7-8 degrees warmer than the UK, and I just think that makes a huge difference. And one thing I am excited for, I'm going to the Gold Coast in about 3 weeks, and on a work trip, and they say the winters up there are obviously like a few degrees warmer than obviously it would be in Sydney. So I'm excited to see what kind of temperature that will be and what it's like up there, if people are still on the beach sunbathing, and I don't know, yeah, it would just be interesting to see what the weather feels like up in the Gold Coast, up in the Sunshine Coast. So those are the things I feel like the UK really lack, and what Australia do really, really well. It blows my mind that those things aren't things that the UK have incorporated. I feel like you'd have like a few more happier people in the country if things like that were accessible, and those little incentives probably make a huge difference to people's mood, and I think Australia nail those things. So yeah, that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching if you're still listening to me ramble on at this point. I hope these videos are helpful for anyone thinking about moving themselves. And yeah, feel free to always like shoot me a comment or anything if you've got any questions. I can try and help as best I possibly can. Again, based on my personal experience, but I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys in the next video very, very soon. Bye.